Today, we're asking the big question. Is ice fishing hardcore or lunacy? Think about it. Willingly going out onto the ice to cut holes in it and a chance to catch a fish. But for those who do it, ice fishing is more than just a winter hobby. It's a challenge, a tradition, and sometimes a downright obsession. In this episode, we're talking about what makes ice fishing so unique, the gear you need to keep from turning into a popsicle, and how to actually catch fish while you're out there instead of just freezing for the fun of it. Plus, you can hear some wild ice fishing stories, get some valuable tips to save your life while you're out there, and we're even going to touch on whether or not modern technology is making it too easy or not. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Bait Tank, where if it's fishing, we'll talk about it. Whether it's gear, techniques, stories, or the health of our waterways, nothing's off the hook. So grab your rod, sit back, and let's dive in.
In the deep, dark depths of winter, there's a group of anglers that go out onto the water when it's completely frozen solid to partake in the sport of ice fishing. Now, the real question is, are these guys lunatics or are they hardcore fishermen? That is the discussion tonight on the Bait Tank. Bit of
All
an
right,
intro.
so quick answer to all of that. Yes, they are hardcore, and they're
And
also
yes, they're
crazy.
lunatics.
Yes, it takes a certain level crazy to go out in sub-zero weather and go fishing. It just does. Even if you have a shanty with a stove, and I've ice fished out of some very nice shanties. Like I played League of Legends in a shanty before. Oh yeah, it's happened.
Nerd.
But hardcore, absolutely, because the same people will have their beards like frozen just to get to their ice fishing spot. And I don't know a lot of anglers that are like, all right, well, it's snowing, it's raining, there's 30-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, I'm still gonna go fishing. Like a lot of summer anglers are not winter anglers, and I respect that.
Well,
And
and like you said, there's summer and winter anglers, but then you also have just in general fair weather anglers. They only go out when conditions are perfect, or
yeah,
they'll only go out when they're comfortable.
I gotta disagree with you. I've never met a winter angler that isn't a summer angler, but I have met
Fair enough.
tons of
I didn't
summer
mean it quite
anglers.
like that. I just meant like
Okay,
there's summer only anglers, and then there's everybody else, right?
yeah,
But even in those two categories, you have the fair weather ones. Like I know ice fishermen that'll only go during the day when it's cloudy, or only during the day when it's sunny because they want that little bit of warmth or whatever. Because they'll have their theories about the light penetration and snow and blue ice, white ice, and all this stuff. I'm assuming we're going to cover tonight, right?
oh yeah,
At some point, like I remember myself ice fishing as a kid with my dad and my brother. We'd go out and we'd have a spud. We didn't have an auger, but we all carried our bucket out there to sit on with stuff in it and had a pillow on it. Dad carried the spud, which is literally just a giant chisel. And he'd punch a hole in the ice, and we may or may not lose some fishing gear in the process, dropping it through the hole, or, oh, hey, that's pretty. I wonder how far it'll go down before we can't see it anymore. Stuff like that. We were little.
hmm
But
I
I
remember
have.
doing the same thing. Like, can a can of beer float?
Well, we didn't have the beer. I was like 6, 7, 8, right?
All right,
I guess I
yeah.
was 9 or 10.
I mean,
Well, I
I was
moved down here.
16, so
I
there was
moved.
that.
We moved to Tennessee when I was 12, so it was sometime before 12 that I was ice fishing. But all those memories are good. I can't think of a single ice fishing trip that I'm like I regret going. Right? And
It's a miserable good time. I've said it before, and I'll
you
say it
have,
again.
yes,
Yeah,
the
that's
most
my
miserable
go-to.
fun time you can have.
Yeah, like it sucks while you're doing it, and I can't tell you how many times like the group I'm with, it's always about the company you're with. If you go ice fishing alone, you're going to have a bad time.
Sure.
But if you're with like a group of friends, family members, it's like this is a this sucks, but at least like,
Get some laughs.
this is fun. Like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
making fun of each other, and like if there's a flag coming up, it's like combat fishing. Like we have played we call it combat fishing, where you like push each other. Now this is like sheets of ice.
First person
Um,
to get there gets the fish.
Yeah, and not gonna lie, like, there's been broken bones before, like, bloody
Oh, come
noses.
on.
Oh, no, it's happened, like, you don't mean to, it's not like you're trying to hurt somebody, but if you push somebody on the ice, they're gonna fall,
With that
and
statement, lunatic versus crazy, it's definitely leaning,
exactly,
or sorry,
and,
lunatic versus hardcore, it's definitely leaning more towards lunatic.
I mean, it's hardcore to think of something like that. Um, but yeah, it's just about, like, who you're with, like, I can't tell you how many times, like, man, it's great ice fishing weather. Like you were saying, like it's like like very little wind. It's cloudy. It's ideal. And but nobody wants to go, and I'm like, I could go.
Do
I
I
could
want to go
probably
by
catch
myself?
fish. Like, do I want to go? Like, I don't like talking to me. Like, I got to deal with me like all day, anyways. And
I
then
want to talk to me
like,
too.
yeah,
Well,
um,
speaking of that topic of about going or by yourself or not going by yourself, you mentioned the wind,
yeah,
wind and precipitation. Obviously, the two biggest enemies in fishing. Anyway, I would argue even more so in the winter, especially if you don't use a shanty.
absolutely. Especially. So, like, the most common temperatures to get, like, hypothermia is 50 degrees, and then if you add, like, water, like, you don't think about it, but you're hauling a sled. You're freezing, like, walking, but you're still gonna sweat because a lot of people, they wear, like, overalls, Carhartt jackets, stuff like that, like, thick stuff, so you're gonna sweat, and then guess what? You're not gonna be doing anything for hours. So, hypothermia can definitely set in, and then if you add, like, snow, it's gonna, like, I'm not saying it's going to get you wet because a lot of people wear, like, waterproof stuff, like
But
myself
it can,
included,
for
but it
sure.
can. Like, um, I one time, like, I had a hood that, like, zippered on. I didn't know my zipper was broken, and it dripped down my neck. I was like, "Well, that's an inconvenience that I get,"
Sure.
and, like, like, if it goes down your neck, you just cannot get warm after that.
No.
So there's, like, little things like that, and then, I mean, everybody, their hands always get cold, because I don't know an angler or an ice fisherman that doesn't just, like, as soon as there's a flag, the first thing that comes off is their gloves.
Right.
Um, it just happens, and then, there's water, like, if you just drill a hole, like, chances are there's ice, like, or water, like, trying to freeze back up on the ice, so you gotta play tug of war with the ice, getting your gloves out, and then, they're wet. Um Personally, when I go out there, I bring, like, 6 pairs of gloves.
Cycle
Normally I
through
leave I normally I lose a pair, like, at least every month when I go ice fishing,
them.
or just lose one. Unfortunately, I didn't lose a hand, I lost a leg, so this one glove sucks. I'm just saying, like, do you know how many pairs of gloves I would have? But,
I was trying to figure out the single boot thing.
that's I wear 2
So, do
boots.
you? Well, yeah, I guess you would still put one over the fake foot leg.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's the
Okay. Never
heel
mind.
difference. Like,
Yeah.
I wear
It's
2
not. It's not.
shoes.
It's not like you have a peg leg.
I want one.
I'm sure you do. Peg leg Sam. Let's move on to another. I'm gonna say a misconception of ice fishing. I know there's several. The biggest one being that it's utterly 100% not safe. That is, to me, a very major misconception. Can it be dangerous? Definitely.
Yeah, it's the same with everything. Like, if you drive to a fishing spot, like, congratulations, like, you just did one of the most dangerous things possible in the United States, and that's driving. Um, Now, walking out on the ice, you always run the risk of slipping, falling, stuff like that. Going through the ice, listen to the ice reports, listen to other anglers in the area. That's going to be your information. Do not go out on a stupid amount of ice. If you go out on, like, 1 inch of ice, like,
You're gonna
you're
get,
gonna fall through.
yeah,
You're gonna get wet.
something's
You're
gonna
gonna
happen.
get, yeah. Um, and always respect the ice. It doesn't matter if you've been there for a year, like if you've been in this area for a year or 20 years. Last year there was somebody that lived in the area for 50 years, was out on a snowmobile, got too close to a mouth of river mouth, and lost it. Him and his buddy both almost died because they're about 70 years old. Snowmobile had to be recovered. The amount of fines, hospital bills, all of that stuff, like it was over $100,000. He said,
I'm about to
and
say a
that's
lot
just
of people
because
don't
he
think about
got
that.
yeah, and like you have to recover that, and you got to pay environmental fines.
Yep.
It was over $100,000 worth of debt that he had to occur because of
Honestly,
he
simple
just got
mistake.
too comfortable. Yeah, he just got
Yep.
too comfortable. Um, but if you go out, you wear yak tracks, you listen to the ice report. I've My first time going out into the ice, I always drill a hole like, all right, when I get 20 feet out, 20 feet and most lakes, if you like go through, you're only going to go partial, like part of the way through. Like your foot is going to sink up, and then you're only 20 feet on the ice. So you got about a 40 minute or 40-foot walk, no problem. And you can definitely like tell, like, all right, there's 8 inches of ice there, probably about 4 inches in the center. Go out like 100 more feet, drill another hole just to be on the safe side. Um, know where your vehicle is if you plan on staying out at night, like have a
Yeah.
GPS or something like that.
No kidding.
Flashlights are always a great thing. Just like be smart about it. Be smart like you would any other like fishing trip.
Yep. I
Um,
mean, you got to respect the water for sure,
yeah,
whether it's frozen or
and
not.
the one of the biggest things that I've come across is dehydration while you're out ice fishing, like where people only drink like maybe a cup or two of coffee like for 8 hours while being out there because if you're cold, you're not thirsty generally. You got to remind yourself.
You're right.
And then you start complaining like, "Oh, I have a headache." Well, I wonder why. And going to
Well,
the
like you
bathroom.
said,
Well,
it's nothing you can think about though. It's cold.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
you don't think about dehydration, right? Dehydration's a summer hot thing, right? No, it's a
hmm
every time of the year you sweat at all, you could be dehydrated thing.
absolutely. Um,
And
go ahead.
you were going through these things. First off, why don't you explain what yak tracks are for some people because some people are
Oh,
not going to know what
I'm
those are.
sorry. So Yak Trax, it's a brand. It's basically like ice cleats. They just strap to your boots, and it is basically slip resistant for your eye or for the ice. They're great all around. I wouldn't wear them like indoors or anything. It's strictly like definitely don't wear them indoors. You're gonna kill any flooring that you come across because they are very aggressive.
Well, I will
Um,
say those probably work a lot better than chains. I remember we used to wear chains on our boots.
hmm And there's a
Just
lot of like different like ice cleats now. I've seen some people bring like mountain climbers where it's like literal like 1 inch spikes. I'm like, that's
awesome, but
overkill.
sketchy at the same time.
Yeah, they did fall, which I was kind of nervous about because I mean, you're only like your point of contact is 12 small points at that point, so you're
Sure.
getting deep contact, but it's not much.
Right.
And but I was worried when they fell, just because that's inch ish
That's
spike.
I'd say it's a
That's free
knife.
falling. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm
I
like, oh man.
don't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we like I said, we used to wear chains. You got shanties, which those shanties vary. I know some people that just take like refrigerator boxes and just wrap tape around them and kind of like waterproof them, and they
I
only
haven't
last for
seen
the
that.
season. Well, they're light. Um, you could, in theory, just carry them out with a sled.
Um, I have
Let's
two
see.
shanties. One that's like a clamshell where it folds over top of you, and there's like a little window that you can look out. And then I have
Uh,
one that's made for two people. It folds out, and it's basically like kind of I want to say like it's almost like a tent, and
yeah,
it has like two holes in the center, so you can easily jig for two people. Lots of room for a heater. And
good stuff
it's comfortable, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on this stuff either. Like you can check out like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and get one for like $40. Especially if you get it in the summertime, they're almost giving it away because it's the off season. People just want to get it out of their garage. Um, so yeah, bargain shop whenever possible.
for sure. And then on top of that, let's see. gear wise, so I mean, obviously most people still use fishing rods, but you have things called, you got tip ups, you have the little specialized jigging rods. Zach, welcome in, buddy. Do me a favor, turn your camera.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely
I still
solid,
wouldn't.
Sam, but I still
No,
wouldn't do
like,
it. No,
yeah, no,
I'm not
yeah,
driving my truck across it and hoping I don't
no,
fall.
that's another thing. Like, you always hear people losing their trucks and stuff like that. Like, don't like you gotta have a cold winter. And like I remember there was Black Lake, there was basically Tip Up Town is what we called it. And Tip Up Town is basically a bunch of shanties together and like tip ups like what Anthony just mentioned. But there was like a Ferris wheel, there would be like elephant ears and carnival rides on the ice. Like it dude,
That's
I'm not
insane.
kidding.
There
It
is no
was like
way. I
dude,
no. I
it
don't
was like
care.
3 feet.
I don't care how
Um
good the ice is. I don't care where you're fishing. You could be in Canada. I am not getting on a Ferris wheel on a lake. That is not happening.
I looked at all the people out there and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. But
Nope.
I mean, there's been no ice accidents. Like they wait until there's like 3 feet of ice.
I don't care. I don't trust it. All right, back on topic. Ice fishing.
Ice fishing.
So,
Let's go.
tip ups. Explain a tip up.
All right, so tip up is kind of like jug fishing, where how a jug fish, like fish takes it, kind of goes nose down, ass up, if you will, and that one's for you, Obi.
Thanks.
You're welcome. For a tip up, once a fish takes, it's like a spring-loaded flag. Um, and there's a bunch of different kinds. Like now there's like some with speakers and lights and all this fancy doodah. But I believe there's even Bluetooth ones now.
Jeez.
Um, don't quote me on that, but I wouldn't put it past people. Where fish takes it, flag comes up, and like, ooh, got a fish. And oftentimes, especially with pike or like larger predatory fish, you'll see this like the reel just spinning, and it's like, ah, oh, great, I got to deal with teeth. Um, most fishermen up here, we hate pike. We catch about 100 of them a day. Well, not 100, but I've caught over 30 in a day. I even
Still
lost a
blows my
fishing
mind.
pole, dude. Um, yeah, I've lost my fishing pole to pike, which it sucked because I would just slay in pike, right? And this fishing pole needed to be retired. It was started out like 2 feet long, and it kept on getting smaller and smaller. Like almost every time I used it, like it just kept on breaking off, and it broke. Like I lost it when it was like 16 inches, and one of my friends, he's a cop, so I called him. Like, yeah, I need to report a theft. Somebody just stole my fishing pole. It was just chilling out here by a pole, and now it's gone. Um, but anyway, so a tip up is like a spring loaded flag. Fish takes the line, flag comes up. You go, you lift up the base basically, and you just kind of reel it in by hand a little bit, like, and then just set the hook, and then hang on. It's a great time.
Yeah, you see a lot of videos of people using tip ups on the with, like you said, bigger fish. They tend to use bigger baits. It's more of a sit and wait thing. A lot of that really is a sit and wait with a tip up. You don't put any action on it, unless you could be using live bait, I guess. But I assume it'd be kind of hard to use live bait because that would
No,
probably trigger it, wouldn't
I use live bait with this stinger and just kind of you can adjust your tension.
it? Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of like I don't run like there's some people that I don't know how they do it, but they put up like 8-inch or 10-inch sucker minnow. I'm not kidding. Like you can
I
buy
said
a
that makes
Sacramento like
regular rods go nuts. I can't imagine
yeah.
a tip up flag.
So I don't know how they do that. I just see their flag. I think they just like stare at their spool because you can see it and hear it.
Oh,
Just kind
okay.
of but because suckers are especially if you have two hooks in your back, you're not going to be really moving too well.
No, that is
Um
fair. Yeah.
yeah, so I I've never fished with a sucker minnow that big. I have fished with like blues. I think the biggest one I've fished with is maybe 6 inches. Um,
We say blue. You saw blue suckers. Talk blue herring. We talking about?
I knew you were gonna ask me that, and I think they're blue herring. Don't quote me
Okay.
on
Clickety clack, clickety
that.
clack,
Yeah,
clickety clack. Google.
I know. Oh, I type in what kind of blues are for ice fishing in Michigan, and minions come up. Awesome.
Alrighty,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Banana.
I just watched Despicable Me.
It's a good movie. I like it.
It is. All right, so we just call them blues. I don't know exactly what kind of blues. I think herring, or that might just be shiners or smelt.
Oh, you know, it
Um,
could be smelt. You are.
I
I didn't
think
think
I
about
think
that.
it
Yeah,
is.
it could be smelt. It's another little bait fish. They're
Yeah, they're
very.
both.
There's okay. For those who don't know, I know in Michigan especially, there's a very special time of year where it is smelt season. It's a smelt run. You take these dip nets and you literally dump them in the creek and you pull up these smelt. They're anywhere between this big and like this big. You deep
A little to your left, Anthony. Other left. That. There we go.
between this big and this big, right?
Yep.
You deep fry them whole. You eat
No,
them whole.
you take the head and the guts
Oh, I'm
off.
sorry. I could have swore you have the heads on. I think it depends on
No.
who. I think it depends on who you get them from.
All right. Coming from a chef, you take the heads off.
Anyway, you basically eat the fish essentially bones and all fried. It's good.
Yep.
It's delicious, and
Beer batter.
it's
Yeah, they are.
well, they're edible anyway, just because they're so small. But yes, they're not fried long enough to soften. It's not like pickling sucker or something where you're trying to soften the bones. They're just that small.
Sucker.
Sucker?
No,
Why?
it's not that bad, dude. It tastes like tuna.
Yeah. Oh, it's delicious.
I guarantee it. Like, if you think about what's in a Big Mac, like how they make that thing, it's not really appetizing.
So,
Alright.
Sam, obviously you've ice fished more than anybody else on the show tonight. What got you into ice fishing in the first place? Why
I
is it
really
so
like
appealing to you?
so I live in Michigan, so probably 3 or 4 months out of the year
That's
is
all you
ice
can do.
fishing season. Yeah. So if you get a hankering for ice fishing or for fishing, you're limited. Like,
Sure.
yeah, they're just you gotta go out on the ice.
I'm
So
about to say you're either
it's
fishing flowing water or you're ice fishing for
good
sure.
luck with flowing water. Like, there's really nothing that they like to go deeper. Um, so when I was 12 years old was my first time ice fishing, and I have pretty much, except for when I joined the service, I've gone ice fishing at least every year. Even when I lost my leg, like 2 days before my surgery, I was like, yeah, I'm going. Like, I haven't gone at all this year, and am I going to be able to go after? So I went ice fishing the year of my amputation, and then last year it was so warm. Like, that was the only time I was really nervous about going on the ice, and there was still like 3 inches. Um, but my personal rule is four or more. So 3 inches is safe, but I still have like ice spikes, which are easier to like crawl up. Like, it just digs in and makes like a hand grip.
Oh, to put yourself out, you
And
mean?
yep. And if you ever go under or like in the ice, do not go forward. Go behind you where you just stepped, because that ice has already proven to be able to hold you. The ice
Makes sense.
forward has not. So that's not a sure thing. Go back, don't go forward.
Good tip.
Um, yep. So, but yeah, even last year I went out once or twice, and I remember I caught it was a 24-inch pike, and I was like, I'll take it. And my buddy's dog ate it. Like, raw, just on the ice. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
well, it's not going to waste. So I don't feel terrible. And
sure.
pike are so prevalent in this lake. Normally in Michigan, it's a 24-inch minimum to keep a pike. And this lake, it's you're only allowed one 24-inch pike or greater, and
Keep everything
unlimited.
else.
Yep, and you can keep anything below 24, unlimited amount. And that was the
That's
lake that I've told you, like, I call it, I think it was like 34, 37 pike in one day.
like I
Uh,
said, I've only ever caught like 4 or 5 my whole life, so I'm looking forward to going on that lake at some point.
well, just let me know. Come on over.
It's
Road
only
trip.
let's see, it's 3 hours from my house to your house. That's it's a 19-hour drive for you. No, sorry, hang on, no, hang on. It's 18 hours for me to drive it, so it would be 21 hours for you to drive it. Maybe we can make that happen someday. That'd be cool. Who knows?
But yeah, I'd be more than happy to have you guys. And there's if you give me a good notice, there's even a cabin my family owns that we could stay out
Nice.
right on that lake, so we can get kayaks, canoes. There's a pontoon boat. Good old good old stuff.
All right. So we have a hardcore, insane ice fisherman.
Yep.
We have myself, who does a little bit of everything. And we have Zach, who's never ice fished. Between the two of you, what takes more skill? Open water fishing or ice fishing? Go.
Ice fishing.
Oh man, that was a flop of an argument.
Well, it's you get 3 holes, and then you got to move. Drill a hole. Like, you wanna be confident in your hole because nobody wants to walk 100 feet on the ice and drill, and nowadays, it's a lot easier with live scopes and all this fancy technology, like, um, and
Back in the day, you made Swiss cheese and just kept trying.
yeah, yeah, and won't lie, I still do that. Like, I can buy a live scope, and trust me, I've been tempted, but I find I'm against live scopes for ice fishing and just fishing in general. It just ruins the fun out of it. Like,
At that point, it's like a
um,
video game.
it
Like,
really is. Like, I've seen people just like walk 100 feet, drill a hole, put this little thing in. Oh, there's one fish, and just jig for 5 minutes, get a fish, put the little sonar thing back in the water. Well, there's no fish here, and just like, really? That's fishing now? Dude, you can traverse the water a lot easier in a boat than you can the ice. Like, you still gotta
sure.
like, a live scope will make regular fishing
I'm
so
not.
much
I'm not.
easier too.
I'm not saying I don't disagree with you guys. Just to be clear, I just putting the argument out there for people to
No,
try to get something. But
like,
then we all agreed, so it doesn't really work there, huh?
even if you bring live scope into the equation, live scope can be used on a boat, canoe, kayak, whatever. It is so much easier to do it in regular open water than it is ice fishing. You can't look through or use live scope through the ice. You just can't.
Now I will
So,
say, I can tell you right now,
yeah.
if I was to ever even remotely consider ice fishing with live scope, I am buying the best dang auger I can get because I am not spudding that many damn holes.
Oh, dude, they have them, like, just for a drill. It's like a clam, and you,
I'm just
just
saying,
bring out battery packs and just, like, yeah, dude, you get about 40
Zach,
holes in one
you're
battery
looking
pack.
confused. A spud is it's a giant. I think like okay, all
Do you
right.
know what a drill is?
Oh geez, he's like, hey, what do you know?
Well, at least he's got the good kind.
He does know. So we know that Zach's favorite or best ice fishing story was him walking in the ditch the other day.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
his only.
so for for me, the best story I got, we were ice fishing, and we were on Portage Lake specifically.
That's a Traverse City, isn't it?
No, it's towards I believe Arcadia, which is south of
Okay,
Frankfurt, going towards Grand Rapids, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
Um, but we were going there. Fish are supposed to be biting really good. We got there. It was packed. There's shanties everywhere, right? So we didn't go to where the shanties were. We stayed a little bit of ways because like it was me and my dad. I don't think my brother was with me. I'm pretty sure it was just me and my dad. But he was so excited because he finally got a hold of these. You got the Y sticks you get for catfishing, right?
Mhm.
Well, they had these little tiny Y sticks for ice fishing rods that just keep your reel from getting wet, right? And he was so excited because he got something, and he told me, "Hey, don't drop this in the hole." And I swear to you, he no longer than turned around, took one step away, and I went, "Uh oh." As I watched it, the cardboard do this as I went deeper and deeper. And up there, the water's so clear, even when it's covered in ice, you can see forever. I bet I watched it for a good 10 feet before I lost sight of it. It was That's probably my favorite ice fishing story. My second favorite, though, we went to Lower Herring Lake. Don't ask me where that's at. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's down that direction again, but I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But the fattest perch I've ever caught. We only caught like 4 fish the whole day. but I kid you not, that perch was every bit as fat, like wide, as a cell phone. It was the fattest thing I ever saw. I mean, literally a football for a perch. I had never seen one that full, like packed. Like if it had been a different time of year, I'd have told you that was a female full of eggs. That's how fat it was
Yeah.
for sure. But that's my two favorite ice fishing stories. Like I said, the one where I dropped the stuff in the hole as soon as he told me not to, and then the fat perch.
My favorite story is me, my buddy. You met him. His name is Stash, and just another one of our mutual friends. We went out ice fishing, and he had all like Stash. He brought it like this shanty heater, like all of the like. I thought it was like this is like Cadillac of ice fishing right here, and I was using a lipless crankbait as jigging, and I was just jigging this lipless crankbait, and I would just hand over fist like laying into these pike. And by noon, I had already caught 17 pike and like 2 or 3 walleye, and a random perch. It was 14 inches. Like it was a
It's a good
nice size
perch.
perch, yeah.
Yeah.
And Sash, he's like, "What are you fishing with?" And Kevin, he was our mutual friend. He caught like 4 or 5 pike and a walleye, so he's
But you were
catching
just,
fish. And
but you
Stash
were
is catching.
smoking it.
Oh yeah. And Stash, he hasn't caught any. And he's like, "What are you using?" And I showed him, and he's like, "All right, I think I have the exact." He had the exact same lipless crankbait, and I just like, "All right, well, you're using that color. I'm gonna switch colors." And
You kept catching, didn't you?
yeah, I was slaying into him again, and I caught another 4, like like the bite switch. It was just mostly walleye, and I only caught like 2 or 3 pike, and then I caught like 4 more walleye, and he was so mad. He's like, "Screw it," and he wanted to do his own thing, I guess. And just, dude, he caught one fish for 12 hours,
It happens. Ask
and
Zach. If I say, ask Zach. I know that story's coming up. He went kayak fishing with him. He was in the middle of fishing a tournament, man. I kid you not. There was maybe 6 feet between his kayak and my kayak. I hooked into one fish and lost it at the butt. Now, granted, it was a little bit better fish. It probably 12 pounds ish, something like that. But he was fishing his numbers tournament. We were fishing out down in front of the Meow Mix cat food plant down there by his house, and he was just slaying these channel cats nonstop. But yeah, I couldn't catch a bite to save my life. I think it was something like that. It was over 20. I know that because you were the majority of your team score, and you guys only had 30 something points. It was a 3-man team, and Zach carried it at the cat food plant.
man, I don't believe it. You don't catch any fish?
Okay. I must say, where's this going here? You know me. It's called fishing, not catching.
I mean, and you're really good at fishing.
I don't know about that per se. I
I
do
mean, I'm
catch
not.
some fish,
I've seen the YouTube videos. Your wife
uh,
catches most of the fish.
but you know what? I love my wife very, very much. She is definitely a better fisherman than I am. I hope my daughter is too. We'll see though. Time will tell. I'm hoping she. Now that's hurtful. Now that's hurtful. That's it. This will be a solo man show. These guys are gone. But
uh,
that's fair. You've been working. I've been working
yeah,
too. I've only gone a couple times. I've been working on the boat some. It's almost done. But back, nice. But back to the crazy stories. Now, Sam, you were telling me the other day you saw, I would argue, violence on the water.
are you talking about the fish that was too big for the
Yes.
hole and bit the
Yes.
line?
Why,
All
why,
right.
why don't you tell us that story?
So the craziest thing I ever saw ice fishing. Quite often, you will get a monster pike or muskie that is just too big for the hole. And a lot of times people will like aug holes around it or, do some things just to like push it through. Um, The craziest thing I ever saw, I was about 16, I still remember it. This guy had to fit or this pike. It was like a 6-inch hole, maybe 8, but he was able to put his hand in like the gill plate of this pike, and the pike already snapped the line. Like it was like it bit the line. So if he were to let go of this fish, it was gone. It was GG. So he reached into his pocket, and I'm not kidding. Reached, grabbed a 22 revolver, put it in the fish's mouth, and just boom. That's all you heard was just like a loud firecracker almost. And his buddy was just like ogging away. Um, and I'm like, I'm just like thinking, like, is this legal? Like,
I,
I don't.
I don't know. Well, that's what
I
he's
mean,
saying. He
one
didn't have
person
he didn't
was
have an extra
there was
hand.
only two. Like, it wasn't my party. I witnessed it. Like, I wasn't part of this, or else, yeah, there was only two
Well,
people. One of them
and
was
let's
making holes.
let's be honest. Exactly. Let's be honest here. You know, you're looking at a hole that's maybe this big,
Yeah,
and probably not even that big. Honestly, they're probably an 8-inch auger, right? So you're looking at 8-inch, maybe a 10-inch hole.
yeah, and
You know,
honestly, I
trying to fit a
love ice
40-inch fish through it.
fishermen, but a lot of ice fish, like myself included, we bring a 6-pack or a 12-pack. So I'm sure they weren't exactly in the right frame of mind. I'm not saying alcohol and guns go well together. They definitely do not. You,
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't be bringing the 22 revolver to put in my pocket while I'm ice fishing. If I'm, if I'm looking for something defensive, I probably go something a little bigger. If I'm worried about bears, I'm bringing something even bigger.
oh
But
yeah.
I also still wouldn't have thought to shoot the fish.
No, I like
That
won't
wasn't
lie.
that wouldn't have
Like
been my first thought.
I conceal carry because even if like if you get into an accident on the ice, it's a lot. Our gunshot is and like I carry like for those who see my YouTube videos, have one coming out here soon. My buddies and I were going to Isle Royal, and we're going to be the first boat out there. I was planning on doing this last year, but there's an issue. There's a big story about it. Well, I'll explain everything in the video. But I always bring a pistol with me just because it is a great noise making device. It's a lot
Sure.
louder than anybody can scream. Me being an amputee, I want to be loud if I'm lost or hurt. I'm sure somebody's going to be like, why in the hell is there somebody shooting in a national park? Or why in the
Right.
hell is there somebody shooting in the middle of the ice? Um, so I carry, it's not really defensive. It's more
Safety.
safety. So I do carry and I do have it like if I ever need to use it defensively, like I do have it readily available. Like I have a clip on my bib, my overall, so all I would need to do is just like pull up my jacket and it's right there. So I do have it accessible. Now that being said, I have it in a holster. I always have my weapon in a holster at all time. The fact that it was just in a pocket of a Carhartt jacket, a holy Carhartt jacket at that, because he was a farmer. You know, there was a lot of things looking back at it, like that was kind of messed up. But
So we were talking earlier. Zach, I'm sure you agree with us that the wind and rain are definitely the worst things to deal with when it comes to fishing. But this is the test. That this is a test to see how hardcore Sam is when it comes to ice fishing. I want to know what the worst conditions you ever fished in on the ice were. I'm gonna say mine is non-existent because I was fishing with my dad and he would never take us out when we were little if it was bad, right? So
yeah, so the craziest I went, it was like -20, -30 with at least 40-mile-an-hour winds. I remember like putting this, so we use a sled to carry everything, but people were slaying brown trout here, and you know, I wanted some. Don't judge me. I remember drilling out my hole, and I only had one hole because I'm like tip ups are like the flag's just gonna pop. It doesn't matter what I do; it's just gonna spring open. So I remember putting the sled behind me, and I had a bucket as a seat, and it was just pressed on me, and it kept on pushing me past the hole. Like every like 20 minutes, I'd have to get up and move, and I want to say the feel like was like -40. Like it was freezing. Like my hole kept on freezing over. Like I kept on having to chip out my hole. I did. I want to say I caught 2 brown trout, and then I called it. I was there for an hour, maybe an hour and
Still,
a half.
that's nuts. Negative 20, 40-mile-an-hour wind. I imagine that slow was sliding. You probably were like getting pushed away from your hole too.
Yeah, no, like that's what I mean. Like I kept on like sliding past it, so I'd have to get up and move all my stuff.
That's nuts. That's
Um,
crazy.
no, no. There's actually so it's not a wind story, but there's a YouTube video of this one guy that he's like setting up um the ice shanty, and you can tell there's 2 people there, and apparently one of the other fishermen got on the snowmobile and just left with the shanty still attached. So the guy's like, "Hey, hey, hey!" It's like 30 mile an hour is like floating like on the lake, and he just like bails.
Sheesh.
I'll send
Ah,
you the video, but I don't think we can put it on our like.
probably not. But yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see it for sure. But
Um.
yeah, it's ice fish is definitely something that everybody should try if they get the chance to. I think it's a unique experience. Uh,
uh,
and I do think it's hardcore. I know that the original question is it hardcore or is it overrated? I don't think it's overrated. I think it's something
No.
that's definitely different. It's worth trying.
Even if you
And
have a Cadillac blind, like heating, like I said, I played League of Legends in a blind before, or in blind shanty. Um, even
it's
if you
basically
have
a
one of
blind.
the, yeah, it really is. But even if you have one of these things, like all like Gucci'd out, you still have to get there, and those things are not far away from shore, like minimum 100 feet. Um, but I've seen them where you got to go like a mile,
There's
like,
some
you
big
need a
lakes
snowmobile yeah,
up
you
there.
need a
Yes. So,
snowmobile or four-wheeler to even think about it.
or you go on a 3-day trip. It takes you a day to get there. You fish for a day and you take a day going back to the car.
I'm not that hardcore, like,
Why not?
I mean, I would do that, but I've never had the opportunity, and honestly
I was waiting for the opportunity to just point at his leg, and be like,
oh, well, there is that, um, but
well, speaking of the shanty and the sleds and everything, like somebody you talk about all this special gear and people are like, oh man, it seems like a lot of work. Really, honestly, it's not. It's just a different set of gear, right? It's not really anything more. Like you said, you're not. I mean, you with you're an outlier. Obviously, your 60-pound rucksack of fishing gear, right? But most people,
57.
whatever. Sorry, most people are going to go fishing unless they're doing something specific. Like Zach goes catfishing, he'll take 8 rods, right? But most
Yeah,
people that are just going to go out by themselves for whatever species, they're going to take 1 or 2 rods tops, right? But then you got
guess
this
so.
when you get into any kind of specialized fishing, you get more gear. So really, if you're bass fishing on a bass boat, those guys can have like 12 rods strapped to the deck. If you're catfishing, you're fishing with as many as your state will allow you to have. I think
Yeah,
in Michigan it's 3 rods,
it is,
but in
but
Tennessee there's no limit. So I mean, people go nuts. I know somebody that fishes with 12 rods. I'm just like, I'm good.
I couldn't keep up with but as far as, like, my pack being so heavy, one reason I do that is I like backpacking, and generally my ruck for backpacking is about 45 pounds. So I'm just trying to get like extra weight and stuff like that and kind of get my endurance and my balance as often as possible. It's one of
Getting
those
used to
things
that lake,
where,
yeah,
yeah, well, it's one of those things where my balance isn't great. And if I can do anything little to help it, I will.
sure. But like I said, it's a different set of gears, different set of preparation.
Oh yeah.
There's like we said earlier, you got to be safe with it. It's not. It's just like any other kind of fishing. You got to respect the water. Yeah, it's frozen. Yeah, you could fall through, but it honestly is. It's not as dangerous as you might think. It's just literally a different mindset and a different way of thinking about things.
Hmm.
Um, Now, again, Zach, you may or may not be able to contribute to this. I know you've seen ice fishing videos. Is there a particular species of fish that people ice fish for that, in your opinion, is more hardcore or makes that person more hardcore than, say, just a general ice fisherman?
That's
I'd say pike and lake trout and walleye are probably the most three popular species of fish for. I would think through the ice if I had to guess.
Panfish, bluegill.
Well, sorry, let me rephrase. Out of the bigger like sport fishing species
Yeah.
that aren't just table fare,
Yeah.
if you're going for trophy fish on that, you're probably going for some sort of walleye, trout, or pike. Um, I would think for me, it's those guys that purposely target like things like burbot or carp, those things that are in the deepest water possible.
Hmm.
Because well, and they're so cool looking, man.
Yeah.
I
I see those on
I want to
Burt
catch
Lake.
one so bad.
There's
Yeah, I want to catch one so bad.
they feel weird.
I'm sure they do. I mean, they're related to a cod. You know, it's
Yeah.
just a freshwater cod, basically. Um, I
I
think they're cool
wouldn't
though.
eat it. They just look too.
You know, that's another good point though. Fishing and when I always say the fish are fatter. Any ice
Yeah.
fisherman will tell you, generally speaking, you will catch on average less fish ice fishing than you will on that same lake on a nice day in the summer. You're going to catch way more fish in the summer. But besides spawning colors, man, fish from under the ice are beautiful, dude.
They are,
I
and the
don't know
meat
I
is
don't know
more
why.
firm. Like they just hold better when you cook them too.
I mean, that makes sense. It's cold to start with. It's
Yeah.
basically
Oh no,
refrigerated already,
like
right?
you're not wrong. And I know we talked about this before. Like I believe you're gonna catch like longer fish in the summertime for whatever reason, but fatter fish are you're definitely gonna get them in the wintertime.
I
Like
mean,
if you want a wall hanger for the color and like the girth, you're gonna want to go ice
ice
fishing
fishing.
trophies. Yeah.
And it makes sense that they're fatter, really, if you think about it. I mean, they're trying to keep the weight pack down so they can survive
Yeah,
the
and
winter, right?
they're you don't need to like use more energy. Like you're constantly storing energy.
That's true. I will say it's awfully funny though too because we laugh about Swiss cheese in the lake and find all those holes, but there's definitely species that travel in schools. You can literally sit in one spot, catch them all morning. You might drill 100 holes in that area and never see another fish till 12 hours later when they went all the way around the lake.
Can confirm has
Yeah.
happened.
So I mean, it's just like regular fishing in that regard. And on a day like that, your live scope isn't going to help you
No,
unless
I
you
mean,
walk in a lot more.
I've seen people that walk like a mile and just drill a hole every like 50 feet. Where I'm like,
I don't
man, the
know.
lake is. I'm not. I wouldn't do it, but I've seen people do it, and they're like, "Well, I'd rather be where the fish are." I'm like, "Well,
I mean, that's fair, but still, I'm nah, I'm good. I'm not walking miles on ice.
no. I mean, maybe if there's a cheeseburger in it, but
Now, leave the food out of it, okay?
no. I'm saying for me,
Jeez.
like I love
Oh,
cheeseburgers. They're
well,
my
I do
favorite
too, man.
food.
I do too. It's obviously getting
There's
late.
just so
I'm
many
getting hungry
things
now.
yeah, like, I literally like, I peeled an orange, like, I'm just waiting for the go ahead.
Right.
But, yeah,
But yeah, and like, what about? So we talk about safety for a second too. What other than the really windy day? What was your scariest experience? Like I never fell through the ice, so I don't have a story for this either.
so generally speaking, when you drill a hole, they're like they freeze over really fast. The exception for that is if you make a square hole or like when a spearing hole is basically where you get a chainsaw and you just cut like a 2 foot square. It takes a while to freeze over and it doesn't really that's when you see like a Christmas tree out on the ice or something to mark it. Um Somebody did not mark it a hole like that and I walked on it. Like I punched through the ice where they had a hole, and I sunk to my hip, and my instantly like my leg just started burning. My boot filled with water. Like half of my leg is just drenched, and I'm like 100 yards away from the car. Um, so I instantly like, man, like I can't go into shock. Like I have to like just because like one part of me got cold, like my entire body's like, what the hell is going on? Like we are all freezing now. Like I can feel like my hands starting to turn purple and stuff like that, like through the gloves. Um, so I started beelining it like right back to my car, and I still have to drag this sled 100 yards. And I remember like my boot, my pants, they were like I couldn't even bend my leg by the time I got to the car because the outside of my pants were frozen. And not to mention like my leg was blue. Like
Sure.
I'm surprised like I didn't lose any toes because my foot looked like it looked bad. But I took off my pants. Um,
Woohoo! Oh wait,
yeah. Well, luckily my car was already warmed up, thank God. So I ended up taking my pants off and I drove home in my boxers and I had the heat just like full
blaring.
blower, yeah, blaring. But I didn't want to keep my cold clothes on. I didn't have any other clothes in my car, so that was my only option, really.
I guess that's another good
Um,
tip. You should always have an extra set of clothes.
yeah.
I do remember
Um,
doing that with my dad. He always had to have us bring like an extra set.
yep. And now I have like a wool blanket in my car too, because even if wool gets wet, it still retains heat.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's another thing, man. I did an episode on my channel about it, kind of. But Chad Hoover is like another YouTuber I watch. He specifically did an episode on winter fishing, uh, layered gear. I will say, is like you have your thermal underwear, and you have different levels of this stuff. It's so you keep the minimum amount of clothing on you to prevent from sweating and dehydrating, right? But also to keep you warm. And
yeah,
there's a
like when I
lot of
go hunting, like I always like I have my coat off because I don't want to sweat like getting to my blind. And then
but you definitely
yeah.
want it there
Yeah,
because in
like, I
case you
bring
get
my
cold.
coat with me, but
Yeah.
I put it on pretty much as soon as I get to my blind, but, yeah, layering, yeah, just be smart about everything. Watch the weather, get updates on your apps.
We were talking about the live scope changing things. In your opinion, again, this is I can't really answer this because I haven't fished ice fishing so long. But is there any kind of technique for ice fishing that's kind of been made obsolete by some sort of technology or gear?
So, I believe, like, learning the lake kinda like, people who just depend on live scopes, and I'm sure I might get hate from this, I feel like they aren't nearly as skilled as most people that don't rely on technology. Um, because anybody can look at a screen. They can. But to
Sure.
read the lake, like understand like where the sandbars are, where the vegetation is, where's the holes, like little things like this. Like, is it obsolete? No, but I believe it will if people rely too much on technology.
Sure.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
No, I got it. I'm with you. That sounds. I was thinking the same thing. I can't think of anything specifically that's different. I mean,
no, it's
well,
sorry.
you were late anyway, so whatever, right? But
um,
we are glad you're here. I got you.
oh, so am I. I had to.
Well,
Just
on a
started a new
final
job.
note, because we are hitting the hour mark on this recording, let's sum it up. So we all agree that ice fishing is probably more hardcore rather than overrated. Um, the various reasons being the fish are there's a different experience. It's a different way to access the lake. The colors on the fish are amazing. The quality of fish per you catch on average is typically fatter, healthier, and prettier. Like I said, the colors, right?
Yeah, and less parasites.
At that point, yes, less
Yeah.
parasites for sure. It's not as dangerous as it seems. You just got to think about it and be smart with it. There's different ways to do techniques. You can do the sitting and waiting with the tip ups. You can technically do the sitting and waiting with the rods if you have it set up well enough and you're close enough to be able to grab it. Um, we did talk about some of the gear today. We didn't go into in depth about that part. It was more about the experience itself. Um, but yes, I would say that we all agree that it's definitely more hardcore than overrated. It's definitely something I think people should try. I know Sam agrees, and I know Zach wants to try uh, eventually. That would be
Dude, no,
it's
like,
that
if it
cold
gets
now.
that cold, like, everything's gonna shut down, dude.
What's that movie? Day After Tomorrow or something like
Yeah,
that?
or, like yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something everybody should try at some point. I think
Yeah, and if you guys ever wanna do, like, a collab next year, I
that
got
would be
extra
fun.
room.
That would be fun. I appreciate the invite. I'm driving up there. Yeah. Uh, with that being said, everybody, I'm Anthony. This is Zach and Sam. You're watching the Bait Tank. We hope you like today's episode. Remember, if you want to take it a step further, if you do want to help us out, we do have a Patreon going now. All you do is go to patreon.com, look up the Bait Tank. It has our logo all over it. You'll be able to find it. Other than that, we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy, tight lines, and like I said, if it's fishing, we'll talk about it.